Do you want to get into my question I had for you?
Yeah, I was getting ready to give you the opportunity, man. Like you're starting to head down that path, and I think this is a good segment for SleepHawk Worldwide, because I think a lot of our listeners, might find value in probably some of my answers to your questions.
Yeah, so I definitely want to talk about conference alignment. That is the topic of the week. But I had a couple questions for you. Let's go straight into the podcast questions. So,
all right,
I'm like a sports media kind of. I pay attention to a lot of sports media stuff. Like I always watch Dan Patrick, Scott Van Pelt, Dan Le Batard's show.
Yep. Great
even
show.
Even Clay Travis's live rise to fame by hopping on the Trump train. Like I've been very interested in how like podcasts grow and media groups grow. So my question to you is like, what do you? Because I think it's important to be open about this. I think it's cool for the listeners to kind of like hear this. Like, what was your goal with SleepHawk Worldwide? What is your intentions? Like, where do you see this thing being? What would you want it to be 2, 3, 4 years from now? Like, do you want to see it grow into like someone buying it and you go into a bigger platform, or is it local and fun? And what do you think?
That's a great question, man. And the origin story of the podcast was actually kind of funny. So during COVID, right, it seems so far away now, but like everybody was just kind of sitting around wondering what the hell they were going to do. And everybody starting podcasts, right? And so, Tyler and I have been hanging out, and, we were just kind of getting to know each other to a large extent. And we had kind of a tight circle during COVID of guys that we knew we could trust and not be out acting stupid. And like, we could get together and hang out and trust that we were doing shit so we didn't get each other sick and whatnot, right? So one day I'm just sitting there with Tyler, right?
Stay safe.
Yeah, hashtag. I had started thinking about it. I was like, damn, man, it'd be cool to start a podcast with Tyler, but I don't know him that well, and he doesn't seem like the kind of guy I want to start a podcast. Anyway, we started talking, chatting, blah blah blah, kicking it, whatever. And one night, Tyler I'll never forget. We were on my old apartment building used to have a rooftop terrace, and we're just hanging out there, drinking some bourbon one night, and Tyler goes, "Man, Sleep, we should start a podcast." And I was like, we were joking about it. He said, "Man, Sleep, we should start a podcast." And I was like, okay, all right, sure. And so that's kind of how it started. It was kind of funny the first time we set it up. Like we did all this shit. If you remember, we used to talk about The Bachelor when we started, because we started it and we were like, well, what the fuck are we going to talk about? And we were like, I don't know. I thought you knew. I don't know. So we were like, well, shit, this is all we know. And then it was interesting because, you got people's perception of Tyler as a, athlete, psycho T, all this sort of persona. And now we're talking about the fucking Bachelor. And it does just two things that don't seem like they belong together. So I think it was intriguing and interesting or whatever. And so it just sort of took off, right? And I think our goal for the podcast is definitely to grow. We see how hard that is. I mean, I could only imagine. Dude, honestly, you have a good following from being with Inside Carolina, for example. Imagine if you and I try to start a podcast, right? Just from the dirt. And so what's interesting is how hard it is, even with a guy, like Tyler, anchoring. If it was just me, if I started a podcast with somebody else that didn't have, nobody would be, a tree in the forest, as they say, right? So it's consistency, it's repetitiveness. But yeah, I think the goal is, and Tyler has seen a personal goal kind of that I have, just being very honest, is, I've gotten to know Tyler really well over time. And it's interesting how I feel like I can relate to certain things that the average person probably doesn't think I should be able to. Maybe I'm just making this shit up in my head. But as Tyler sort of exits his career, right, as an athlete, dude, I never reached nearly, I couldn't even dream of reaching the levels that he did. But when I cared that much about sports too when I was playing them when I was younger. And then I remember what it was like and how hard I had to transition. We joke a lot on this podcast and amongst my friends about how long I stayed in undergrad and how long I was in college. But the real reason was because all I ever cared about was playing baseball. And then when I couldn't do it anymore, I couldn't handle it, right? It was hard on me. And so that's 20, 25 years ago. It took me a long time to overcome that. And I sympathize with what it must be like to have actually accomplished something and then have to let go. Right. And so, one of the things that I personally hope to get out of it is to, I see Tyler has a valuable, sort of sought after voice. I mean, he's an important voice at Carolina. He's an important voice in college sports. He is an early advocate for kids getting paid to play, and he's the perfect example of why, right? And so what I hope happens out of this for him is it creates, a way for him to showcase that, hey man, like I can be the next JJ Redick or, whomever that's taken that step from, you see like Jesse Palmer's and these guys that takes that step from being a recognizable athlete into like a media personality. And he's starting to get consistently gets more and more comfortable, sharing those opinions with people. And I think people want them. So, that's kind of one of my goals. As far as the podcast, hopefully I'm along for the ride too, but it doesn't bother me one way or the other.
Like, I got a lot of answer to what you just said, but do you want this to would you want to be like bought by a media company and become their network? Or do you kind of see it being like, dude, if this thing makes a couple hundred a month, that's kind of what I see it being? Or what do you want, I guess?
So as like an entrepreneur, and I don't even know if anybody knows I have an actual day job, but as somebody who's started a company and every day trying to make that company successful, I mean, what moves my brain is like, how do I turn this into a business? And it's not a business as to like I want to get rich off this thing or something. It's like it's a problem solving thing. Like the passion is in, can I create something that people want, right? And I think that's what really moves me. So if I become a millionaire off of this thing, like we become the next Barstool podcast, that's awesome. But it's not awesome because we get rich and famous. It's awesome because we created something that people enjoy and they like and they want more of, right? So to answer that question, my goal is absolutely like I would love for this thing to become, a big deal. And I'm constantly, it's a challenge not only because it's hard to do period, but it's also hard to do like part-time. Right. So, even though I got another job, Tyler's also doing a lot of other things. And so, just figuring out how can we get better? And we are really committed to that. We have a lot of conversation behind the scenes, but it's all about execution, man. In any business and any endeavor you're in, like you can talk about it, but until you decide to be about it, it's not going to get where you want it to get. So we're aware of that and we're aware of our own shortfalls on it. But that's definitely the goal is to grow it. And either we're in one last piece of that is we kind of track the metrics as best we can. And during March Madness, the one thing I was most proud of is that there was a point where we were, all these lists of podcasts are very hard to peg down on what's what. But there was a time we were inside the top 20 basketball podcasts in America, and we're the only one on the top 200 that doesn't have a network. So the fact that we just sat down at the kitchen counter and decided, we're real proud of that. But I'd love to have a network come in and say, hey, like we like the product. You guys are funny or you guys have a good show or whatever. And like, let's put some of the blocking and tackling in place so that you guys can do what you do and let us handle the stuff that, can really turn this into an engine and make it grow. That would be cool.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. I mean, a couple of things like, Tyler Hansbrough is outside of Jordan.
Yeah.
He might be the most recognizable UNC name in college basketball for UNC fans. Like,
sure.
You got Antoine Jameson, Vince Carter, but like, dude, my era, it's Tyler Hansbrough. So of course, y'all know this, like it's super, that's why you're getting all these big interviews, right? With tons of awesome names that people within North Carolina and UNC community want to log into. Bomani Jones was a huge get, Wayne Ellington. Got to get Ty Lawson on. I'd love to hear Ty Lawson.
Dude, I told Tyler, this is a true story. When he left and he was like, hey man, I can't make the pod. I was like, the one way you can make it up to me, buddy, and you know what that is. And he started laughing. And I was like, you got to ask Coach Williams, man. While you're down there, golfing with Coach, just tell him old Sleep Dog is like, tell him it's my one wish, right? Like tell him, so we want to get him. I want to get Drake, right? And the truth is, and this is our strategy, man. Like, I told him, I was like, dude, if we can get Drake before the football season starts, right, that's a big deal for us. I think it's what people want to hear too, right? So like having a guy like that come on at a time when he is at his peak relevancy, right? Those are and we were talking offline about the whole, Bubba Cunningham conversations and now that story. It's this, and I know this from like journalism. It's like sometimes the harder you try to get the story that's going to get traction and expand, the harder it is to do it. And then you wind up just kind of doing the right thing and being in the right place at the right time. And somebody says something, and it doesn't have to be something controversial. Somebody could just say, hey, and this, that, whatever. And then boom, it catches on. Right.
Yeah,
and you got to put yourself in position to have that happen. And because I truthfully think our podcast is good. I really do. Me and Tyler laugh all the time. We said, maybe we just like hearing ourselves talk. Also accurate.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you have a podcast. But I also think that getting it out, there's a lot of people. I go to a lot of UNC circles and they're like, didn't know Tyler had a podcast. It blows my mind because I'm like, dude, how do we solve that problem? Because we have an audience right here. I mean, period. So,
yeah. So dude, this is, I'm not saying this is to suck up. I think you're a great host. I think you're very funny. And I think you're perfectly fit for the role you play within the podcast. And then you have Hansbrough, who people want to see his personality. I think he's come out of the shell a lot since he was in college. And he's hilarious. And I think you all have good insight. He provides a very unique perspective from what he played in the NBA, playing college, knows the whole. So that plays a huge role too. I will reach out to Jeremy Sharp, the football SID at UNC, and I'll get y'all hooked up with him. I know him well, and hopefully you can get Drake May on. I don't think that's a crazy ask to get Drake May on within the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, dude, it's not like we asked. I mean, we ain't going in asking for the hard balls.
Yeah. Do you know Jeremy Sharp?
Well, we know Steve. We know Kirshner.
Okay. I'll put you hold that SID thing. I'll put you in touch with Jeremy.
All right. I'd love that.
I know Jeremy. He's a football SID. I'll put you in charge, and from there, I think you'll have a good enough following that there's a chance you get him on and go from there. But I think it's an entertaining podcast. I told you, man, I go back. I'm not a loyal listener in terms of every week, but I'll forget about it for a while. Then I've gone back and I'm listening to all of 2022 and 2023. I'm going through it, man. I'm living through
it. You're a saint,
like,
man. I don't think my mom's ever even listened to him. So you basically love me more than my mom does.
It's kind of like it's good like background stuff because you're not like it's not like CNN or like it's not like political stuff where I have to like be locked in, but I'll put it in while I'm like doing dishes and shit. And I think it's great background to kind of get a couple laughs here and there.
I try to listen to it on a trip or something to, critique it some, right? To like, now my wife will be the first one to tell you that like, don't nobody laugh at my jokes more than me. Right. Like, so I get it. And I get that half of them, fucking 80-90% of them ain't funny. But, sometimes I catch myself and like Tyler says things that are funny that he ain't even trying. Right. And it's that's the one thing I'll say about our podcast that is fascinating to me is I do listen, and I listen to now I don't listen to a ton of podcasts, but I try to listen to other ones that I'm like, I know they're super successful, right? And I listen to some of these and I'm like, dude, this shit is boring. Like it's not, McAfee to me is like the pinnacle. I mean, his stuff is like so funny all the time. He is brilliant. He's witty. He's fast. He's quick. He's all these things. But a lot of that other stuff. And the thing of it is I kid you not, this is our 129th episode. And Tyler and I have been together for 127 of them. Not this one, and there's one other one. And like, I bet
honored. What an honor.
I bet you that we have not had to edit more than 5. And if we had to edit anything, it wasn't because there was like losing our train of thought. It's because of some technical thing. Like we just have always just sat down and just recorded and then chopped a little bit of bullshit off of it and like rolled with it. And that's hard to find, So I think that's what I really enjoy about it is that it's easy. Right. So
that's the beauty of any good podcast. It's guys hanging out and talking sports and talking, getting beers and whatever happened last weekend. That's the beauty of any good podcast, and people will appreciate that. And then, I mean, the key with podcasts is consistency. Yeah. And some people think I want to start a podcast. You got to stick with it. You have to be there every week or twice a week, and you have to be consistent. And then another thing I'll tell you, man, I don't know if you've thought of this, but someone told me this, or maybe I heard it or read it or something, but like, you have to promote yourself. No one is going to promote you. Like no one's going to promote you unless you promote yourself. So it's weird and it's awkward. And like, you may feel like you're like being an asshole by doing it.
Yeah. That
like,
is
dude,
one of the hardest parts. Yeah.
I run into that a lot on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. It's like, dude, but like, if you have, no one's gonna promote you if you don't promote yourself. And so you have to, if you think you have good shit, you have to promote it.
100%.
And I grew a Twitter account from 0 to 24K. I'm pretty proud of that, man. It's not fucking a million.
It's hard as hell.
Yeah, it's not a million, but I feel like when I was covering UNC, I put out good content, and I made a point to like people interested in like, oh, I'm in Notre Dame. Like, let's film some shit in Notre Dame and show what it's like to go to a game here. If I'm going to tailgate at UNC, I'm going to film some stuff that someone said, or a funny T-shirt, or a funny flag that someone had. Like, people don't know how to really use social media to their advantage. And that's what you got to do. It's getting dark here in Ann Arbor. I got a couple questions for you about your marriage.
Yeah. And the last thing on that is, the other thing to give you credit for is the thing that people don't realize is all that takes work, right? Like, and that's the part everybody just thinks. But it is. It's hard. And the commitment part is the hard part, because you got to do that shit.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to record this podcast. I was like, damn, dude, it's late. But yeah, you got to do it. And then you do it and you're like, hell yeah. So anyway, all right, here we go. Yeah. This is what I was talking about. Everybody really wanted and needed to know.
This is the new SleepHawk segment, I think, right? The
new baby.
SleepHawk Worldwide segment.
Get that heart music going, Pablo.
We're going marriage advice. Marriage advice with Sleep Dog. All right, so you've been married for 1 year, right? I listened to the last podcast.
Near on the dot. Yep, about 2 weeks, year and a couple weeks.
That's right. So 1 year. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I've been dating my girlfriend now for almost 1 year and a month now. So I think you're a couple years older than me. So we're late 30s. You know, we didn't get married in our 20s. Like, that was a choice we made. So we went through the whole.
A lot of people made for me.
That's right. Yeah. So broadly, I would say, if you were to talk to, let's say, a 25-year-old that's getting married, what would be your, maybe 3 or 4 things of Sleep Dog marriage advice you would give them? And then I'll bounce off from your answers with a couple questions and we'll get out of here.
Biggest one is, I think, funny story, man. I try to give her a what is that? It's like a little sleeping pill, Unisom. I gave her a Unisom before we started. I don't know if it kicked in yet, but it'll Sleep Dog. This is my kitchen table, guys. So, this is intimate. I'm just kidding. But she probably can't hear me, and she will call me on it. Biggest thing, honestly, is in this day and age, right? There's all this, like, and it's weird because, like, I feel like I'll be 40 this year, okay? And it's my adulthood has covered. My first year at UNC was the first year of Facebook. So I've come through this
era.
I've come through this whole media thing. And of course, then the dating apps come on and all this sort of stuff. And it's like really overwhelming, because I don't give a shit who you are. As a human being, you might think you're fucking Casanova or somebody, Cam, but you're looking for, somebody to like share shit with, right? I mean, I think most normal, warm-blooded people are doing that. And it gets really super overwhelming, because you're like, as time goes on, you're like, damn, dude, you're trying harder and harder and harder. And it's kind of like what we were just talking about with like the interview process, right? Like, you're trying to get that guy or that, that person, that guest that takes it where it's supposed to be. But the reality is you just got to, like, the shit just happens in ways that you just don't understand. So the patience is the hardest part, man, because you're like trying to, like, all right, like, time's getting away from me, or like this or that, or, various points in your life or whatever. And for me, dude, I've been married 1 year. I'll be 40. I got married. I was 38 years old. And it just immediately, dude, I was like, all right, yep, this is it. So, and you definitely have those doubts at some point, like, damn, I ain't never getting married, dude. And and marriage maybe isn't for everybody, so that's fine. No, that's a big deal either. But it's just like, for whatever you're looking for, just sort of like letting it happen, I think is the thing that I never really did until once you get a certain age, man. You ain't really got a whole lot of choices. You're just getting old, and you just kind of let it happen. And it does, but it's awesome, man.
So advice wise, like, So what's the key year
To
one?
a happy marriage?
Yeah, and you dated her for what, a year or so before you married her.
Yep.
What's the key? Say rule number one to keeping a happy marriage,
Dude,
keeping everybody happy. Not just
one of the
you,
things
not
I
just her.
hate worse than anything is a cliche. Okay, Tim Crothers, if you're out there, taught you just come up with your own shit. Cliches suck, and I took that and ran with it. I hate cliches. But that happy wife, happy life thing, damn, I ain't never heard truer words in my entire life, dude. So it's just like one of those things. Everybody that's married gets it. Everybody that ain't married is probably like, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you kind of get to the point where like you bitch about it or whatever, you get aggravated, but that's like generally what you want. You know what I mean? Is like you kind of, at least for me, and I said this the day we got married, is like I finally found like this was something that I cared about more than myself, right? And that was the first time that shit's ever happened. And sometimes I kind of walk back on that, right? Because you get a little selfish. But, I think the biggest thing is make a lot of compromises. And by compromises, do what she wants to do. That shit'll save you a lot of fucking headache.
Compromises is
you got to start getting over shit. If look, man, if you're doing something, if you buy a new throw pillow and she says, I think this shit should go in the refrigerator, you put that throw pillow in the refrigerator and shut the fuck up about it. Okay. Like that's my piece of advice for that. The other day, we had a little shelf in here, and Sleep Dog's big bourbon guy, right? I got a little big bourbon collection. I like bourbon. I feel like, somebody comes over my house and they see a couple nice bottles of bourbon on it. It's just there to admire, right? Well, she told me the other day that bourbon is not a decoration. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, yes, it is. And then, of course, we compromised. Now the bourbon's way up in the closet somewhere where nobody can see it.
Yeah.
And, you start to reflect on it. You're like, yeah, actually, I guess I'm 40, right? Like, nobody's like coming over my house anymore to like drink the whole bottle and like, oh, that's so cool. Like, so you just sort of realize in the moment that some of the emotional response you have to something that you don't like, that shit'll go away. So,
yeah, I mean, you fucking hit to the core on a bunch of things. Cause like I'm a year into this relationship. It's probably the most serious relationship I've been in. I moved for her, quit my job for her.
Yep.
So, I'm experiencing probably a lot of similar things you felt a year ago. Compromises are huge. In my house in Chapel Hill, I had an American flag, I had a UNC flag, and I had a North Carolina state flag.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Wolfpack, North Carolina state flag on all my walls. It's like, it's time to stop living in a frat house,
Yep. Those got to go.
So things like that. Happy
and you're doing the right thing, man.
Life.
You know what I mean? Like maybe the shit crashes and burns. Obviously, I hope that never happens for either one of you. But like, dude, you got to put yourself out there, man. You just got to fucking take it. You got to take it and run with it, man, because you just don't know. So, and the only way you're going to find out is if you try it. And
exactly,
we got married quick. I mean, we got but that's one of the benefits of like knowing what you don't want. You know what I mean? So
when did y'all meet and then when did you get engaged and married? It's good.
Height of COVID,
here.
dude. Height of COVID. So we get this first. No, I take that back. That's absolutely not correct, because we went to a hockey game on first date, and it's funny because like you meet. And I'm like, I was really rolling the dice here because you.
So what? Give us a date and year.
So one thing you'll learn when you get married, okay, is when you talk with your boys about like specifics. Just keep those out of conversation, because I promise you ain't gonna remember that shit. And when your wife listens to your podcast, she's like, "You don't remember our first
height of COVID?
What I was wearing?" It was like June. It was June 1st of one of those years, 2 years ago, 3 years, I don't know. And anyway, she's probably in the bedroom right now, with her ear against the door. We went to a hockey game, Carolina. It was a playoff game, and we were sitting there, and we met for a drink first. And that's also, guys out there, any of you guys still single, man, don't be getting into these dinner dates and like, don't.
Dude, I could go on for this.
Do as I say, not as I do. Cause in this one, like, I can't tell you exactly what was a little chase going on there, but, I was like, hey, I got tickets to the hockey game. I got an extra ticket hockey game. You interested?
Yeah.
And I didn't have tickets to the game. And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, fuck, it's a fucking playoff game. This bitch is about $500, right? So they're expensive as hell. So I'm like, all right, well, now I got to get them. So I get, and I ain't going to get a shitty seat because then she might think I'm, fucking dumb. So, of course, you don't even know this. Never even heard of hockey basically before. So she's just saying, okay. So we go get this drink or whatever. And, immediate. You sort of hit it off. Yeah. All those like initial checks, right? Because you go on a lot of these like dates and your dating app or whatever. And an initial check is like, if you get past the initial meeting, like that's 70% of them. You like, as soon as you see this person, you're like, fuck, took the bait and got bit, right? So you get through that and then you start having a little conversation. It doesn't take long to be like, all right, yeah, I'm digging this. Like we keep going. Yeah. Well, then like I'm sitting there and we're supposed to be at the games at like 7 and it's like 7:30 and I'm like, bro, I'm trying to go to this game. And finally we went and, one thing led to another and we ended up married. So it worked out good. And it was a kind of funny story because we're sitting there and I'm trying to be like, I'm trying not to act like I care about going to the game. But A, the game was expensive, and B, even more importantly, I wanted to go. So, and I gave her an out too. I was like, hey, look, hockey game's a big commitment. If you don't want to go, you ain't got to go. And she was like, do you not want to go with me? And I was like, yeah. Well, nah, yeah, for sure. But can we go? Like, please now?
So my big rule is dude, dinner. Do not do dinner for the first day, especially online dating. Like, go for a drink or a coffee. One drink. I mean, if you're in for $16, 2 drinks, like you're good to go. An hour.
Coffee's the move.
Yeah, but I don't know. If you're really into the girl, I think a drink is good because it's a little more romantic. It's like nighttime. There's a little more romantic intention on a drink, I think. So if you're into the girl, you think, and she's attractive, you go drink. I think if it's, you're still testing her out, you're not sure, maybe a coffee. Cause I feel that you're not going to like hook up with a chick at 11 a.m. at your Caribou Coffee, I hosted a podcast on WCHL. It was all about dating and online dating.
I did not know that. Yeah. If I knew that, I probably would have like signed a waiver before we got on here.
Yeah. About a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago on Chapel Hill's WCHL, I hosted a dating podcast.
What was it called?
God, what was it called? It was called
Romance with Ross.
No, it had some
Ross man.
Nah, but I was on I don't know if you noticed it. I was on a dating an HBO dating show too.
Oh wow, God!
You don't know that,
dude? No.
HBO Max dating show, Swiping America. It's on HBO Max right now.
Oh, well, I'm gonna go watch it as soon as I get done.
I'm on the first episode.
Oh my God, dude! You're like a fucking savant, dude. Why are you asking me questions for?
That's right. Well.
Yeah, so anyway, this segment, and the other thing about podcasts is sometimes you got a segment, you're like, yeah, this is going to be good. And then you realize, I'll try a different one next time.
I think if you and SleepHawk, Big Hawk could have a couple questions about marriage life, I think it could be a segment there.
Hey, man, there's definitely some funny ones out there. So, hey, listen, any of you guys listen, you need some advice, I'll give it to you. Okay, so you just shoot us a note, shoot us an email, write us a letter, DM us. Buy a t-shirt first. You buy a t-shirt, that's a great way to get your question answered. You'll be learning more about that in the coming days and weeks. But yeah, I'll answer your damn question. You might not like the answer, but I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to hear. Maybe not what you want to hear. It's great. It really is. Hell, she lets me sit at the kitchen table, do a podcast for an hour and a half. She's definitely trying to go to sleep. Probably got the TV and a fan on in there so loud. All she does all day is listen to me talk, and then she got to listen to podcasts in the kitchen.
That's right. Hey, I'll give one advice.
All right.
Flowers are a very inexpensive and easy way to gain a lot of easy daily favor with your significant other.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to farmer's market, $5-10, and get a bouquet of flowers. Go to Trader Joe's, $5-10. Bouquet of flowers. It's not that much money, and you can get just like chicks love flowers. I don't know what it is, but
I tell you what, buddy, them diamonds are not forever. You piss them off, they're gonna forget about them diamonds until you make them happy again. So flowers is a pretty good idea. You could try to buy your way out of the doghouse, and you ain't gonna get there. So I'll tell you that right now. I'll try that one time or two, but the best way to get out of the doghouse is stay the hell out of it to begin with.
There you go.
So